Hi class. This video will be covering the topic on donors tax and value-added tax. So let's have first the donors tax. And to better understand the context of donors tax, let us first discuss the basics of donation. So what do you mean by donation? Donation is also known as gift is a voluntary transfer of property or rights from one person to another without any expectation of compensation or payment in return. So it is an act of liberality whereby a person disposes gratuitously of a thing or right in favor of another who accepts it. The donation is a legal act of transferring property or rights from one person known as the donor to another called the donee without any valuable consideration. Now, there are two types of donation. So we have the donation inter vivos and donation mortis causa. So donation inter vivos is the type of donation that takes effect during the lifetime of the donor and the donee, meaning it involves the immediate transfer of ownership and possession to the donee. So inter vivos is a Latin term that means between living persons. So this type of donation happens while the donor is still alive. So once the donation is made, the recipient or the donee immediately receives ownership of the donated asset. So the donor cannot take it back unless there is a legal reason. So for example, Juan owns a car, and while he is still alive, he decides to donate it to his nephew, Pedro. So they execute a deed of donation, and Pedro accepts it. So the car now legally belongs to Pedro, even though Juan is still alive. So that's the donation inter vivos. Pag sinabi naman nating donation mortis causa, it is also known as a donation in contemplation of death. And takes effect only upon the donor's death. So this type of donation is governed by rules of succession. So mortis causa means because of death. Therefore, this donation only takes effect when the donor dies. So until the donor is alive, the recipient has no legal right to the donation. So it must follow the rules of succession or the rules of inheritance. Yan. So for example, Maria, an elderly woman, writes in her last will and testament that she wants to donate her car to her nephew Luis when she passes away. So since this is a donation mortis causa, Luis does not own the car yet while Maria is alive. Only after Maria's death will the donation take effect. Now, it is also important to determine when is donation perfected. And take note that a donation is perfected from the moment the donor knows of the acceptance by the donee. And the acceptance must be made during the lifetime of the donor and of the donee. So bakit kailangan ng acceptance ni donee? Donation na nga. Kumbaga, donation is an act of liberality. So acceptance is crucial not just for legal validity but also for ethical and practical reasons. And just as a donor has the right to give, the donee must also have the freedom to accept or decline the gift. Why? Because if acceptance were not required, it could lead to unintended burdens, moral obligations, or unfair expectations on the part of the recipient. So hindi natin pwedeng i-force si donee na i-accept yung donation kasi for example, ayaw niyang magkaroon ng utang na loob kay donor or yung mga emotional burdens na tinatawag. Okay naman, baka may kaakibat din na financial burden dun sa donation. For instance, if a donor gives a piece of land that comes with unpaid taxes or maintenance costs, so the donor should have the right to evaluate and decide whether they are willing to take on such responsibilities. So without the requirement of acceptance, a donee could be forced into an unwanted financial liability rather than a true benefit. So in short, if a donation were automatic upon the donor's decision alone, it could lead to disputes, confusion, and unintended legal consequences. Kaya kailangan para ma-perfect ang donation, dapat i-accept siya ni donee. Now, why is it important to know when the donation is perfected? So it's important to understand when a donation is perfected because the moment a donation becomes legally valid, it affects ownership rights, tax obligations, and potential legal disputes. Take note that once a donation is perfected, the donee gains a legal right to the property or asset. However, if the donation is not yet perfected, the donor can still revoke or change their mind. So pagdating naman sa tax, if a donation is perfected, the donor is immediately liable to pay donor's tax. So it is important to note that donor's tax has to be paid within a specific time frame after the donation is perfected and completed. So there are also formalities that has to be observed for a donation to be valid and legally enforceable. Like for example, if the donation is an immovable property, the requirement of the law is it has to be made in public document, meaning there should be a written document like the deed of donation. If it is movable property, the donation could be oral or in writing, depending on the value of the property. So if the value, for example, of the property exceeds 5,000 pesos, then the donation and acceptance should be made in writing. So those are some of the requirements for a donation to be valid, and our legal basis is the new Civil Code of the Philippines. So I think that's it for the basics of donations. We won't go into an in-depth discussion about donations. So now let's move on to donor's tax. So again, if a donation meets the legal requirements, it becomes subject to donor's tax. But what is donor's tax? So donor's tax is a tax imposed on a donation or gift. And under Philippine law, any individual or entity that transfers property through a donation is liable for this tax unless the donation qualifies for exemption. So donor's tax in the Philippines is a tax imposed on the giver or donor when transferring property or money to another person without receiving anything in return. So this tax is essential as it helps fund public services such as education, healthcare, and infrastructure development. So understanding donor's tax ensures that individuals comply with tax laws while making generous contributions to others. So take note that donor's tax also applies to foreign donors if the donation is made within the Philippines, unless it qualifies for an exemption. While for Filipino donors, both local and international donations are taxable. For example, a Filipino donating cash to a U.S. relative is still taxed in the Philippines. And according to the National Internal Revenue Code or NIRC, a donation is subject to a flat rate of 6% donor's tax if the total value exceeds 250,000 pesos in a calendar year. Now, let's have an example in computing donor's tax. So, for example, Juan donates 1 million pesos to his friend Maria. So, again, the first 250,000 pesos, as mentioned earlier, is tax exempt. So the taxable portion is 1 million pesos less 250,000, that is 750,000. So the taxable portion is the 750,000 pesos. So the donor's tax is 750,000 times 6%, that is 45,000 pesos. So Juan, the donor, is responsible for paying this 45,000 pesos, and it must be filed and paid within 30 days from the date of the donation using BIR form. So that is how donor's tax is being computed. Now, there are some donations that exempt from donor's tax, and these exemptions provide avenues for generosity without incurring tax liabilities. as long as the donations meet BIR regulations. So certain donations are tax-free, including donations worth 250,000 or less per year. And so again, if the total value of all donations made by a donor in a year does not exceed 250,000 pesos, so it is exempt from donor's tax. Also, donations to the government. So gifts or donations to the national government, local government units, and government-owned or controlled corporations are exempt from donor's tax, provided the donation is used exclusively for public purposes. An example of this would be a businessman, for example, donates 1 million pesos to the Department of Education to build a classroom. So this donation is tax exempt. Donations also to qualified non-profit organizations are exempt. Okay. Um, for example, donations to accredited charitable, religious, cultural, educational, and social welfare organizations are exempt provided they meet BIR qualification. So to qualify, the donee must be certified as a non-stock or nonprofit organization. So for example, a person donates 500,000 pesos to a Red Cross affiliated charity. So this is also tax exempt. So if you visit the BIR website, you can actually see a list of entities who are considered exempted from donor's tax under special laws. And just like any tax obligation, failure to properly file and pay donor's tax on time can result in serious financial and legal consequences. So when a donor fails to declare or settle the required tax, penalties begin to accumulate, leading to higher costs and potential legal action. So these penalties are imposed by the Bureau of Internal Revenue, the BIR, to ensure that taxpayers fulfill their obligations and contribute fairly to government funds. So these are the penalties for non-compliance. So late filing penalty, that's 25% surcharge on unpaid tax. Interest penalty, 12% per year on unpaid tax. Penalties for willful neglect or fraudulent filing, that's 50% surcharge on unpaid tax. And yung mga other fraudulent transactions, pwede siyang magkaroon ng mga criminal charges and additional penalties and interest. So, for example, Mr. Reyes, a businessman, donated 5 million pesos to his nephew on January 10, 2025, but failed to file and pay donor's tax within the 30-day deadline. So months passed and the Bureau of Internal Revenue audited his tax records and discovered the unpaid tax. So when questioned, Mr. Reyes attempted to alter the donation amount in his documents to make it appear as if he had only donated 2 million pesos, trying to reduce the tax due. So what are the penalties to be imposed? So because it was filed late, there will be a 25% surcharge. Also, the tax remained unpaid for several months, so therefore, an interest penalty of 12% per year on the outstanding amount will also be imposed. And since Mr. Reyes attempted to manipulate tax records, there will be an addition of 50% surcharge for fraudulent filing. So imagine sa 5 million na donation, no, if Mr. Reyes complied with the donor's tax obligation, 300,000 pesos lang dapat yung babayaran niya. So that's the 6% of 5 million. Pero applying all those penalties, aabot ng around 500,000 pesos yung babayaran niya plus possible legal consequences. O di ba? So nagmagandang loob ka ng mag-donate, ikaw pa yung na-damage. So that's why it is important to comply with donor's tax obligation to avoid unnecessary penalty and legal issues. So that's it for donor's tax. To conclude, donor's tax is an essential part of the Philippine tax system, ensuring that large transfers of wealth through donations are properly regulated and taxed. And by understanding its rules, taxpayers can comply with legal requirements, avoid penalties, and maximize available exemptions for donations made to charitable and government institutions. So paying donors tax also contributes to public services and national development, reinforcing the principle that transfers should be fair and transparent. Whether as a donor or a recipient, awareness of donors tax helps individuals and businesses manage their financial responsibilities effectively while supporting the country's economic growth. Yeah, so that's it for donor tax. Now let's proceed to another essential part of taxation, which is the value added tax or VAT. So unlike donor's tax, which applies to gifts and donations, VAT is something we encounter almost every day, whether we're buying groceries, dining at restaurants, or even purchasing online. So, but what exactly is VAT and why is it important? So, before we define what value added tax is, first, let's explore how it came into existence. Of course, understanding its history will help us see why VAT plays a crucial role in our economy today. So, before VAT, the Philippines used different sales tax. So there were multiple layers of taxes and it was a bit confusing. So businesses had to pay several types of taxes whenever they bought and sold goods. So this made things expensive and sometimes businesses passed on too many costs to customers. So ano yung problem before nung wala pang VAT? So sa sales tax, no, so the system was complicated and unfair. Some businesses paid more taxes while others paid less, and the government had trouble collecting all the taxes properly. Now, the value added tax was officially introduced through Executive Order number 273 during the time of President Corazon Aquino. So instead of taxing everything at different stage, so VAT was a single tax applied to goods and services at every step of production and sales. So naging simpler and fairer na siya. So instead of many different taxes, there was just one VAT system and everyone paid tax based on the value added to a product or service. And because of that, it helped the government collect taxes more efficiently. So at first, VAT started at 10%, meaning for every 100 pesos spent, 10 pesos went to the government as tax. So in 1994, VAT gets stronger. So under President Fidel V. Ramos, Republic Act number 7716, also called the expanded VAT or the e-VAT law, was introduced. So this meant more goods and services were now covered by VAT, including electricity and transportation services. So why was this done? So basically to increase government funds for building projects and to ensure fairness, so all businesses and industries contributed. Now in 2005, VAT increases to 12%. So during President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo's term, Republic Act number 9337 was passed, increasing VAT from 10% to 12%. So why was VAT increased? Because the government needed more funds to support education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Also, the Philippine economy was growing and VAT had to keep up with inflation. So this change meant that for every 100 pesos spent on goods or services, 12 pesos was collected as VAT. So as of today, the VAT rate remains at 12%. And that is a brief overview of how VAT originated and evolved. So to reiterate, based on NIRC, value added tax is an indirect tax and the amount of tax may be shifted or passed on to the buyers, transferee or lessee of the goods, properties, or services. So indirect tax siya because businesses do not directly bear the cost of the tax but instead pass it on to consumers. So again, whenever a person buys goods, avails of services, or leases a property, the seller or service provider includes VAT in the total price. So this way, the tax burden is shifted from the business to the final buyer or end user. So understanding VAT is essential for business owners and future business owners like you and consumers because it affects pricing, business compliance, and overall government revenue collection. Now, who is required to pay VAT? And according to NIRC Section 105, any person who, in the course of trade or business, sells, barters, exchanges, leases goods or properties, renders services, and any person who imports goods shall be subjected to the value added tax imposed in Section 106 of the NIRC. So according to Section 105 of the National Internal Revenue Code, anyone who regularly engages in business is required to pay value added tax. So this includes businesses that sells goods, for example, yung mga stores, supermarkets, also businesses that provide services like yung mga salons, repair shops, restaurants, those companies that lease properties, and people or businesses that import goods from other countries. However, there are some essential goods like fresh vegetables, fish, and educational services that are exempt from VAT to help ordinary Filipinos. Also, businesses earning 3 million pesos or less per year don't have to register for VAT, making it easier for small entrepreneurs. So in short, if you are selling, trading, or providing services for profit and your annual sales exceed 3 million pesos, you must register for VAT and charge 12% VAT on your products or services. So to better understand this, let's have this scenario. So Maria owns a small bakery in Manila. And initially, her sales were below the 3 million pesos threshold. However, as her bakery gained popularity, her annual sales reached 3.5 million pesos. So question, is Maria mandated to be a VAT registered? The answer is yes. So, because her income is above the 3 million pesos threshold, so she must register for VAT and charge 12% VAT on every sale. So now, dun sa initial sale ni Maria na below 3 million pesos, hindi pa siya mandated to be a VAT registered. But does it mean tax-free na yung sales ni Maria? Let's say 2 million pesos yung initial sales niya. Subjected to tax ba yung 2 million pesos na earning ni Maria? The answer is yes. Pero hindi sa VAT, kundi dun sa tinatawag natin na percentage tax which is fixed at 3%. So let's differentiate value-added tax versus percentage tax. And so as presented here, in the table, first, we have the tax rate. So businesses under VAT are charged 12%, while those under percentage tax only pay 3%. Next, who needs to pay each tax? So if a business earns more than 3 million pesos per year, it must register for VAT and start charging 12% VAT on sales. On the other hand, if a business earns 3 million pesos or less, it is not required to register for VAT and instead pays a fixed 3% percentage tax on total sales. So lastly, we look at the filing requirements. So VAT must be filed monthly or quarterly, while percentage tax is filed quarterly, making it a simpler option for smaller businesses. So in summary, VAT applies to larger businesses while percentage tax is for smaller businesses earning below 3 million pesos. And so understanding this distinction helps business owners comply with tax regulations and choose the correct tax type for their operations. Now let's explore VAT registration and compliance. So again, sabi natin kanina, businesses that reach the 3 million pesos threshold are required to register for VAT with the BIR. So registration involves submitting the necessary documents, obtaining a certificate of registration, and displaying it in the business premises. So a VAT registered business must charge 12% VAT on its sales, keep accurate records, and file VAT returns. So as mentioned earlier, once a business earns more than 3 million pesos in annual sales, it is required to register for value-added tax with the Bureau of Internal Revenue. So by following these VAT registration rules, businesses can avoid penalties, maintain transparency, and contribute to government funding for public services. Now, what happens if a business fails to comply with VAT requirements? So these are the consequences of non-compliance. Same din siya sa donor's tax as discussed earlier. So late filing penalty, that's 25% surcharge on unpaid tax, interest penalty, 12% annual interest on outstanding VAT, penalties for willful neglect or fraudulent filing, that's 50% charge on unpaid tax, and other possible criminal liability and higher penalties para doon sa mga fraudulent filing. So bukod dito sa mga penalties na na-mention, no, Section 254 of the NIRC also provides that any person who willfully attempts in any manner to evade or defeat any tax imposed in the NIRC code or the payment thereof shall in addition to other penalties provided by law may be punished with a fine of not less than 500,000 pesos but not more than 10 million pesos, and imprisonment of not less than 6 years but not more than 10 years. So mabigat yung punishment if you try to evade or defeat tax, 'di ba? Any tax, okay? Na meron tayo dito sa Philippines. So to better understand the consequences of non-compliance, let's have this scenario. So Anna runs a clothing boutique in Makati. Over the past 3 years, her annual revenue consistently exceeded 4 million pesos, which meant she was required to register for VAT and file VAT returns. However, Anna failed to do so, thinking that as a small business, she wouldn't be noticed by the BIR. So during a routine audit, the BIR discovered her non-compliance and issued a notice of deficiency. So Anna was therefore required to settle her unpaid VAT along with penalties and interest. So magkano dapat yung tax na babayaran ni Ana? So kukunin natin yung 12% ng 4 million pesos, and that is 480,000 pesos times 3 years, 'di ba? So that is 1,440,000 pesos. Yun dapat yung babayaran niya for 3 years kasi nag-earn siya ng 4 million pesos in a year. So yun yung basic tax na dapat bayaran ni Ana. Again, that's equivalent to 1,440,000 pesos. However, dahil nga non-compliant siya, mag-a-apply pa yung mga penalties. So for non-payment, need niyang bayaran yung 25% surcharge. So 25% ng 1.4, that is 360,000. Tapos yung 12% interest for each year of non-payment, okay, which is equivalent to 345,000 pesos kasi nga 3 years siya na hindi nagbayad. So all in all, lahat ng babayaran ni Ana is amounting to 2,145,600 pesos to be exact. So just imagine, no, originally yung basic tax niya lang na dapat bayaran is 1,440,000. But because of non-compliance, okay, more than 500,000 yung damage, and Ana has to settle that amount to avoid other legal consequences. So bukod sa financial strain that it would cause, Anna will also face reputational damage. So this scenario highlights the importance of VAT compliance, timely payments, and proper record keeping to avoid penalties. So as presented, we could see that VAT plays a vital role in the economy, but it also comes with strict compliance rules. So to wrap up, take note that VAT is a crucial component of the Philippine economy as it serves as a major source of government revenue used to fund essential public services such as education, healthcare, and infrastructure. However, businesses must comply with strict tax regulations to ensure proper collection and remittance of VAT. Understanding VAT requirements is essential for business owners to maintain compliance, avoid financial burdens, and contribute to national development. So, this is especially important for all of you as future entrepreneurs, diba? So, when you establish your own business in the future, it is essential to understand and fulfill your responsibilities in complying with tax laws to avoid unnecessary penalties and legal complications. So please remember that a responsible entrepreneur not only ensures the success and stability of their business, but also upholds integrity and contributes to the growth and development of our nation. So by being tax compliant, you play a vital role in supporting public services, strengthening the company, and setting a positive example for ethical business practices. Yeah, so I think that will be all for this topic. Thank you very much and have a blessed day ahead.